Welcome to the Lazy Fluency podcast, where we have casual conversations switching between English and Japanese, so you can learn from and with us along the way. I'm Joey.
And I'm Miami.
And the topic of the day is urban transport. Well, more specifically, urban transportation in America. And Japan, I guess. My first question with this topic. How often do you use a car?
私は運転しないからどういうこと？使うって自分が運転する？それとも乗ったりするってこと？
No, I'm just wondering on an average day, or maybe like in a week, how many times do you have to get in a car for one reason or another?
買い物とかは、3日に1回とかなのかな。で、あと週末に出かけるとかすると、2、3回なのかね。
And that's in a car?
うん。
So you're driving or somebody else is driving?
私は運転できないから家族に乗せてもらう。
And you don't use a train?
そう、電車使うよ。電車使うけど、その実家に帰った時は、買い物とか出かけたりするから、それで、2かな。週に2回か、3回って感じかな。
Do you think that's the norm?
わかんない。
Or do you do it more or
他の
less
家族
often?
はどうかわかんないけどさ、週末に毎週家族でどっか出かける人とかいれば、車使う人も多いと思うけど、あと、住んでる地域にもよるよね。東京に住んでたら電車の方が便利だから、電車使う人が多くて、だいたいそういう人は車は全然一回使うか使わないとかじゃないかな。東京に住んでる人。
Yeah, that's actually why I'm talking about this today. Is when I was looking at, I definitely should have had the statistics on reference, but basically it forms the most public or popular forms of transport in Japan. It goes train by like an overwhelming majority, and then under train it's walking. If I'm remembering correctly, it's like 50% plus train, then like around 20, maybe under 20% walking, and then like 16% or something biking, or something lower than that. I might have a little rough, and then like 6%. It depends on the prefecture. Some have less and more cars, whatever, but basically cars are basically like under 10%. And to me, living in America, where basically if you want to go anywhere, and I mean anywhere, you basically need to have a car, or you need to get somebody else to give you a ride. And I'm starting to go insane. I mean, I've lived in America the whole time, and this is basically like heretical speech in America if you talk down on the car. But I'm getting very, very tired of having to be dependent on a car to do the most basics of things. If you want to even get like recently, I remember you picked up aluminum foil, and you only had to like walk and buy aluminum foil, and it took you like 5 minutes to do that.
アルミホイル買うのにね、5分歩けばドラッグストアがあって、そこで買ってまた戻るっていうね。料理中にやったから。それが料理中できないってことだよね、アメリカだとね。足りないってなった時に。
Yeah, I mean, I live in a place that's like more doable than other locations, but in many locations, and even in the location I'm in, it's a huge pain in the ass. Like for any reason, if you want to do anything, you either need a car or you have to walk or bike, which is fine. I love walking and biking. But since there's basically almost a guarantee that there's no biking lane, and if there is a biking lane, it's not protected. And because of that, yeah, you're basically sharing the road with cars, which is the majority of the traffic. And then the people on cars hate you, and they're like, "Oh, those bikers." But in reality, it sucks because I don't want to be on the road with cars. I want to be in a protected lane. But America has this is like a whole larger discussion, but I'm starting on I'll frame this in a positive note instead. instead of saying I hate American urban transportation, which I do, let me phrase it as I love European and Japanese urban transport.
そのさ、歩道ってさ、全然保護されてないって言ってたけどさ、舗装っていうか、まあ、線が引いてあるだけなの？それとも線も何も。
Yeah. Just.
線は引いてある。
Oh, well, no, okay, so it depends. No. If there are lines, it's like, that's like, in America, that's what they consider, oh, that's a bike lane. Like, you're lucky if they have
危ない
lines.
ね。
There are many times where you're just,
そうなんだ。
you're just basically on the side of a road. And then the worst thing is that you're allowed to obviously park on this. I mean, maybe obvious in America, not obvious in other places. You can park on the side of the road. So most there's not it's very common for there not to be a line and for there to be cars parking on the road. So if you want to actually go on the road, you get pushed to the middle of the road just because there are people parked on the side. And then the cars that are behind you get mad at you because they're like, why are you on the road? And there's no other alternative.
そうなんだ。なんか日本だと考えられないね。まず日本の歩道って言えばなんか名前はわかんないけどブロックみたいなのがあって、でちゃんと舗装されてるし、あと道路によってはね、サイクリングロードっていうなんか別の青い青じゃないかもしれないけど、その線があって、歩行者とは別のサイクリング用のレーンみたいなのがあるとこもあるから、そこはめちゃめちゃ舗装っていうの、その整備されてるよね。
Yeah.
あと、
Yeah. I mean, that does exist technically. Oh, go ahead.
その動画で見たんだけど、アメリカの道路は、歩道が途中で終わるところもあるみたいな。どういうことって。
Yeah, exactly. That's made for cars. That's literally why.
そうなんだ。車道がメインで、もう歩道はもうサブ的な感じなんだね。
Yeah, well, I mean, this is a very long conversation. I might bring this up into some other topic of the day or thing like this later, because this is a huge discussion. But fundamentally, America used to be like a walking city, and like people who were walking used to be prioritized, and we had really awesome trains. And then for many reasons, including a lot of like lobbying from big like oil and gas companies in the US, a lot of like those towns in like tight knit kind of, how dense like Tokyo is, like it's all people, there's a bunch of buildings in one space, and there's a bunch of roads that are all interconnected. They kind of destroyed that in the US and then said, let's have big roads for cars, and let's also run propaganda saying that pedestrians are dumb for wanting to, basically instead of saying we don't want cars in a place meant for people, it kind of turned into why do we have people in a place meant for cars? And then so all the infrastructure became more and more car centric. And so that's why we have like those drops in the sidewalk are meant so cars can pull in and easily like not be encumbered by annoying what's it called, infrastructure meant for walking. And the worst part is because cars take up so much space, like for example, let's assume that I'm in this hypothetical situation where everything's close, and everybody drives cars. That's fine. I mean, I don't like that, but that's better than the current situation, because at least when I'm walking or biking, I could get there quickly. But in the US, everything is separated extremely heavily, like all because of zoning. But so if I want to go anywhere from a residential area to a commercial area, it takes forever. So not only am I in a very terrible, like inconvenienced situation to begin with, but I also have to be in that situation for a long time.
なんかね、日本だとね、なんか一つの住宅街っていうのかな、一つのその住宅が集まっている塊につき、なんていうの、それぞれ必要なスーパーであったり、ガスステーションであったり、ドラッグストア、そういうお店がそれぞれの住宅街にある感じだから、それがゾーニングっていうのかな。
Yeah, zoning is like when it's basically just I mean, it doesn't have to be governmental, I don't think, technically speaking, but it's basically just rules surrounding what types of things can be in what types of land. And in the U.S., by and large, there are only 3 real types of zoning, which is like commercial, industrial, and residential. So industrial being like big factories, commercial being like shops and restaurants and other stuff like that. And then residential being where
ちょっ
people
と待って
live.
ね。ちょっと整理する
But the,
と、
yeah, go ahead.
待ってね。
Yeah.
スーパーが一つのエリアにめちゃめちゃあるってこと
Yeah, well, no. So we have those are just the 3 categories, like 3 general categories, and every like country has those categories. It's just how you decide to zone for them. So in America, or for example, for Japan, there's a lot of mixed zoning, which means those 3 categories can be intermixed with each other. So in a residential area or an area where it's primarily meant for people living, you can also have schools, you can have shrines, and you can also, like, people can open up small shops in their house. Like, but in the US, if you're in a residential zone or primarily residential zone, you can most places only have single family residential or single family homes. So homes intended for single families, and they all have to have a certain like size of lawn and a certain amount of parking. Basically everything's built from the ground up to take up as much space as possible and to take that space up for cars. Which is sad, which makes me sad.
あ、そうなんだ。なんかね。
You know, in Japan, you have like multiple people living in like an apartment complex or like a multi-family like home or like I mean, there's a bunch of
家の
options.
サイズが、
Or like how you can
家の
have.
サイズ全部決まってるってこと
Go ahead. No, it's not that the size is necessarily set. It's more that the purpose of the home is set. So if you have a house, it has to be in a residential area. It has to be intended for a single family only.
じゃあおじいちゃんおばあちゃん一緒に住んじゃいけないんだ。
Yeah, exactly. So like, I mean, other examples of different types of home are duplexes, where you have a house that is meant for multiple families, or like they're more larger multi-family type. I can't remember what they're called. Like, I guess they're like larger apartment structures. And there's also like obviously just generalized residential apartments. You find a lot of those in Europe, and I think Japan also has a lot of them as well. And the big thing to note is that they're not restricted just to residential areas. Like, you can have homes and then have like schooling and then have like a convenience store down the road that's really close to your house. So you basically bring all important things close to each other, which reduces the amount of time anybody has to travel if they want to go anywhere. But the US can't do that because of zoning, because of people having this idea that mixed zoning ruins neighborhoods, which I find ridiculous, especially if you've been, for me, like when I went to Japan, I felt so free because I was like, oh, I can, in America, they'll be like, well, driving is freedom. Driving is freedom. But realistically speaking, if you have to get a car, you don't really have any freedom of choice. You're forced to get a car. And if you don't have a car, especially if you're like a college student or below, then you can't go anywhere without relying on somebody else. How is that freedom? In Japan, I was able to go anywhere I wanted without having a car. It was beautiful.
そう。
It was beautiful.
それはめちゃめちゃ助かるよね。しかも、日本のさ、電車ってさ、時間通りに、まあほとんど時間通りに来るじゃん。遅れても5分とか、事故とかない限り、そう、時間通りに来るから、そこもいいよね。
Well, I don't even care if they come on time. I want options. But basically, when my options are get a car or walk like 5 miles through on a highway that has no sidewalks, and then cars will be pissed at you. And I've had people, when I've just been like running, intentionally go close to the curb and then shoot like if there's a bunch of mud or anything like that. Like they'll be in this like off to the left, and they'll get as close as possible to try to ride me or like drive me off the road, and or like a lot of times they'll like cut right in front of me, and then so they'll shoot a bunch of mud and shit in my face. And so it's like, not only does the infrastructure suck, but then the people who drive cars are especially entitled to the road because they're like, this is built for us.
待って、不思議に思うんだけどさ、 日本で、ランニングするってなった時に、まあ、市街地で普通にランニングする人もいるわけよ。そういった場合はどこでランニングするの？
I mean, there's a lot of places, at least in Japan, to run. Like when I was there.
違う違う、アメリカでランニングするってなった時に。
Oh, I mean, I think in a lot of cities you just have to run on the sidewalks in the city, or you have to go to like a specific area just built for running.
じゃあ公園とかってこと？
I mean, yeah, basically, which is extremely inconvenient.
あ、そうなんだ。じゃあ近くに公園なかったらもう、ねえ、エクササイズできなくてますわ。
Well, yeah, no. Well, then you have to drive. You have to drive. Like you're forced to drive to get daily exercise, which is ridiculous. And you won't naturally get that exercise because everybody's used to just getting out of their garage and then getting in their car. So as opposed to Japan, where people are used to walking if they want something.
何せ近くにお店があるからね。
Yeah, well, there's everything you really want close to you. And I truly think the only reason, aside from a bunch of like lobbying and like a fake culture that was created by gas and oil companies, aside from that, I think it's just because people haven't experienced the alternative. I didn't have this much hatred towards U.S. infrastructure, like urban transport infrastructure, until I went to Japan and then realized that the U.S. thinks of itself as like so advanced, but it is in some ways. No hate towards the U.S. I mean, sort of a little bit of hate, but once you experience like actual, true, good urban transport and infrastructure and how freeing that is for like individuals in it, it's just like you just want to throw up when you think about
一回ね、
the U.S.'s
天
system.
国見ちゃうともう自分のとこがこんだけダメなんだっていうのをもう分かっちゃうからね。
Yeah, exactly.
他の世界見ちゃうとダメなんだね。
Well, a lot of Americans do that, and then they talk about how not cars are the best thing. They're trying to take away our cars. They're trying to take away our freedom.
でもさ、なんか貧しい人でさ、車買えない人ってどうするのじゃ
あ。Public transport, maybe? I'm not sure.
アメリカで
If it exists. If it
だっ
exists,
て
yeah.
移動できないでしょ、そういう人は。そういう人、じゃあ、
Basically,
危ないけど、なんだ、舗装されてないとこ歩くしかないとかなのかね。
I mean, yeah, no, it's difficult. It's really difficult. That's like it's a whole longer conversation. But I think I might come back to it because there's a bunch of different components of this. So people interested in this urban infrastructure rant, I'll be down to talk about it. But I'll leave that or this rant here for now.
ね、めちゃめちゃこの文句言ってるからね。So this time I want to talk about odd jobs I did recently. So how do you
なるほど。
say odd job in Japanese, Joey?
何でしたっけ？あ、単発バイト。
Yeah. 単発バイト. So yeah, I did lipsticks packing and working with clothes in a warehouse. And for the lipstick packing, I did it like a week ago, and it was super, super exhausting. Yeah.
なんかどんなところが
because like, so it started at 8 a.m. in the morning, and I was sitting in a factory for 7 hours, and
長
I was constantly
座ってるだけ
I was constantly packing a lipstick in a box. So basically, all you have to do is assemble the box and then put a lipstick into the box. And also you put a paper, which has a, how do I say, explanation? 説明書? How do you say?
説明書. Oh.
How do you say in English?
Instructions.
Yeah, instructions.
So.
Instruction paper? Yeah. Into the box, and then that's the finish. So, and then there was a belt conveyor. How do I say? Yeah. So, I had to make one box within 5 seconds because the belt conveyor constantly gives me lots of lipsticks to finish. So I had to keep making the boxes. So that was...
本当なんか毎秒5秒だけ
Yeah, per one box, I had to make it within 5 seconds.
やらないとどうなる
Then, how do I say, the person next to me will be fucked up. Because if I can't finish my own lipsticks, then that goes to the next person. You know what I mean?
みんななんか列でやってるってこと
So imagine the factory that there are many people around the belt conveyor. And then if you can't finish your own lipsticks, then the next person has to deal with the lipsticks you had to deal with.
で、その人がなんかみんな単発バイトやっていったの、それともなんか
when I went there, the only beginners like me were only 3 beginners. Then the other people were experienced people, like they already were
なんか毎日そういう仕事をやる
working, as a part-time job. So they were really good at making boxes. Like, they could make one box within like 4 seconds or so. So I felt really rushed to make a box. Yeah, and just
で、全体的な感想はなんかもう一度やりたいと思ってる
I don't want to do that. Like, through this experience, I learned how hard it is to make money. Like, for my regular job, for my regular part-time job, I do home tutoring as a teacher. And then I make about 2,000 yen per hour. But for the lipstick job, the odd job, I only made 1,100 yen per hour. So that's so I make double in home tutoring. So I don't want to do that again. And I respect people who are doing that, like in daily basis. Yeah.
単発バイトじゃなかったんだけど、父がそういうなんか工場に関するいろんな仕事をやってきたから私がたまに手伝ってあげる、その仕事で、でもちろんなんか仕事じゃない、仕事というか父がやってるから手伝ってあげるだけ、お金もらわない、けど結構疲れる、そういうなんか労働的な仕事だと、
especially when you use your hands or body, then that will tire you, and also, how do I say, that kind of jobs tire you mentally and physically, right? Because you have to be focused, like constantly. Yeah, so
なんか 日本語でなんていうちょっとわかんないんだけど、そういう顧問と違うかもしれないんだけど、なんか、その仕事が遅くなってたら、誰かがなんていうか、自分が何でしたっけ、アミがやってた仕事、忘れてしまった。そのリップスティックの仕事、バイト、なんか、そういうみんなが働いてるところを見てる人いた？
What do you mean?
なんか、みんながちゃんとやってることを確認するために、誰かが見守ってる。
Like a supervisor or so?
そう。
I guess, yeah, there was a job leader which who checks the final product. And then if I make mistakes, then they will come to me and then, yeah. Like, tell...
でもその時間、なんか陸上みたいに、5秒を測ってるわけじゃない。
No. Just like, yeah, you can see that the next person is struggling with the extra lipsticks. So, yeah. I had to, finish my own lipsticks. So, yeah, I felt really guilty about it.
その方が面白いけどね。なんか、そういうタイマーを持ってて、そういうなんか、
and then,
なんか位置について、
like, you think making a box is a easy job, but your fingers keep slipping off the box, so it's not easy. It's more like, difficult.
どの材料でできてたその箱？
I guess it was a paper-based box, but on
Cardboard?
but on the surface, there was a plastic. How do I say that? Like,
film?
Shiny kind of coating. Film. Yeah.
その薄いプラスチックみたいな。
So it was kind of slippery. So
ビニール、紙とビニールのなんかついた材料。ちょっとわかんないんだけど。
So, and then the box was kind of small. So that was so tiring. Yeah. I don't want to do that again.
じゃあちょっとなんていうか労働に関するどの話が最初に話した方がいいかわかんないんだけど、ちょっと関連してる話だけど、ついに日本の話だけど外国人労働者と留学生は日本に行くことができるだと思う。少なくとも3月1日だったと思うんだけど、旅行に関しては何も変わってない。その鎖国してる自体が何も変わってないと思うんだけど、少なくとも留学生と外国人労働者が日本に行くことができる。おめでとう、リスナーさんがそういう状況にいたら。
So that means if you were a worker or exchange student, you can come to Japan. Right?
日本で働いてるなら日本に行ける。でももちろんただ働いてることで日本に入れるわけじゃない。なんかアメリカで働いていたら日本に入れるわけじゃないってこと。
I see many foreigners in Tokyo, though. Well, then what?
最近ってこと？
Yeah. Are they workers?
かも。それか鎖国してるからアメリカかその人の国に戻ることはできないから日本にずっと
So you can come into Japan, but you can't leave Japan. So that
いやいや、そういうことじゃなくて、コロナの、そのなんていうか、パンデミックの前に日本にいて、それでパンデミックの問題が、どんどん悪くなって、なんか、アメリカに戻ったら、なんか、日本に帰ることはできないかもしれないから、まあ、このままでいい。
So, they could leave Japan, but they might not be able to come back, so they decided to stay here. No, going back to America.
そう。
Okay.
でも、今月3月1日はついに開いたと思う。まあ、一応調べなくちゃいけ調べた方がいいんだけど、そういう記憶はある、一応。今日じゃなくて、3月1日。
Hopefully, yeah, Japan opens up for travelers. Yeah. Not only workers
旅
and
行したいんだけど。
yeah, workers and exchange students. Yeah. Yeah. If you can come to Japan, then what prefecture do you want to visit first? Thinking time.
考えなくちゃいけない。
You have many options. So 47 prefectures.
まあ、京都は私にとって大事だから、一応京都に行かなくちゃいけないんだけど。
To visit host family?
そう。と、私が行った大学、留学してた時。で、東京に戻りたい。もちろん、ちょっとなんていうか、単純な質問だけど、東京はすごいから。
The urban planning.
でも、青森にも行きたい。
You want to eat apples?
まあ、食べたくないまでは言わないんだけど。
Aomori is famous for its apples. So, I'm just saying.
雪の景色みたい。雪の景色、青森の
You
雪
can
の
go
景
to
色みたい。
Hokkaido then.
いや、でも青森は世界一の、なんていうか、毎年雪が降ってる、確率という、わかんないんだけど、そういう、どのぐらい降ってるかってことで、一番多い、青森は。
It depends on the season you come to Japan though. Because if you come here in summer, then you won't be able to see that beautiful scenery, which is covered with
長野も
snow.
雪の話ないんだけど、今雪にはちょっと関連してるんだけど、猿みたい。
The monkeys in onsen, right?
温泉
Yeah,
の
but
中
it's
の
kind of like,
猿み
how
た
do
い。
I say? So I want to ask you a question. Do you want to bathe with monkeys in onsen?
いやいや、できないよ、そんなこと。
You can't?
いや、できない。2つのプールがあって、まあ温泉があって、で、一つは猿のための温泉で、他のは人間のため。
I thought you could.
いや。
Because it's dangerous?
自然の中に生きてる猿だから。
So it might attack you or something like that.
そう。でも多分人に慣れてるから、そんなに恐ることないんだけど。
When I look at the picture, monkeys are bathing in onsen. They look like old man.
いい質問があります。このトピックに関しては、リスナーに聞く同じ質問。もし日本が開いたときに、まあ日本人だったら、まあアメリカに、今アメリカに行けるんだけど、
Yeah, basically, yeah.
日本人以外のリスナーが日本に行くことができたら、どこに行きたい、なんか最初にどの県とか何のことをやりたいってことをコメントしてください。コメントで書いてください。
If Japanese people asking
もうなんか日本人今アメリカに来られるでしょ、それでそんなに面白い質問じゃないと思う。まあ日本人に関してなんていうかこのパンデミックの状態が終わったらどこに行きたい。
It can be
で
any country, right?
どこでも。
Yeah.
でも特に日本に行きたい日本人じゃない人の視点からすると、もちろん日本はちょっと鎖国してるから、日本が開いた時にどの県に行きたいと何やりたいってことを。
Okay, so you're asking a question which is saying if you're a Japanese and
いや違う。日本人じゃない。
for foreigners
日本人するに日本に行きたいから。
for foreigners, which prefecture do you wanna go? When you go to the same question I asked you ね。Okay,
そうそうそう。
I
教
hope
えてください
they
ね。
choose the prefecture I live in. Because I'm here. Yeah.
楽しみにしてます。
So please comment in the comment section. And I really want to know which prefecture you want to visit first. Yeah. それでは、最後のパートですけど、ここでは言語に関する、申し立てということをやっていこうと思います。では、私から。
Oh, wait. I think there's something important that we need to mention.
何?
Send us an email!
これは重要です。はい。E メール送ってくださいね。何でもいいんで、質問でも、何でもいい、で、今日起こった出来事でも、何でもいいんで、送ってください。はい。
And we also recently officially have all of our links and things to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and stuff like that set up. And so listen to the podcast wherever you feel is most appropriate.
そうね。ポッドキャスト聞けるとこなら、lazyfluency って検索してくれればね、多分いると思うんでね、オレンジのね、ロゴ。探してもらって、Apple Podcast、Spotify、Google Podcast、あと YouTube もね、見つけられるんでね。あと、ホームページっていうか、ホームページか。もあるんで、Facebook、Twitter もあるんで、Instagram もあるんで。ぜひぜひ、今ちょっと並びすぎたけど、ぜひぜひ、フォロー、コメント、like、subscribe してください。ね。好きがこぼれ落ちます。してくれたら。
Okay, we have that out of the way.
はい。じゃあ、戻りますと、言語の申し立てということで、今回私が申し立てしたいのは、日本語の敬語の、風習でございます。敬語がちょっとなんで使わなくちゃいけないのかなっていう、思ってて、なんかこれを、感じ始めたのが、今大学行ってるんですけど、大学で教授に、先生に、メールするときに、いちいち、なんて言うんだろう、敬語を使わなくちゃいけないのが、めんどくさいっていうか。ね。
Is it just the fact you have to be polite, or is it 敬語 specifically?
なんていうのはどっちも敬語を使わないといけないっていう風習と、敬語そもそもがなんか気に食わない。
I mean, I'm completely with you on this one, but what parts about 敬語 do you find particularly? Is it annoying or difficult?
ね、
or both?
どっちもなんか気に食わないし、めんどくさいし、なんかネガティブなことしか言ってないけどさ、まずなんていうの、それぞれの動詞に対してさ、敬語があるわけじゃん。で、
Yeah.
例えばだけど、食べるだったら召し上がるとかね。で、
Yeah,
な
yeah.
んか、何々していただくとかさ、まああるわけよ。してくださるとか。で、そういう、
Yeah, いらっしゃる。And then ご
そう
覧になる。
そうそう。なんかどこまで、なんていうの、敬語をすればいいのかわかんなくてさ。例えば、ものすごく丁寧になりたいんだったら、ご覧になるとかさ。めちゃめちゃ最上級の王様レベルの敬語も使うことできるしさ。あと、なんだろう。
Yeah.
なんか敬語に対す
I find it.
あ、
Go
敬語
ahead.
に関するラントはありますジョイさん。
Oh, well, the thing that I find the most interesting is when you're talking to somebody who's on like the same level as you or whatever you
う
want to
ん。
think of
う
that
ん。
as, but you're talking about somebody who's above both of you.
うん。
So then there's like a weird game you play of who's the more polite Japanese
うん。
speaker. Like if they refer to this person above you using
うん。
keigo and then you don't, then you look
うん。
rude. But you're not even talking to this third person. You're just talking to the person you're talking to. So like you know what I'm talking about? Like two students are talking about the
うん。
professor is
う
an
ん。
example. And one of them might be referring to the professor using like all keigo and going very hard. いらっしゃる, and like, I don't know, ご覧になる and 召し上がってる and all that. Or maybe instead of just saying like the base form going 召し上がる, they'll maybe like, normally you're talking in
うん。
tamego and they'll
う
be
ん。
like, 何あっ
うん。
た and なんか
うん。
食べた. But then when they talk about their teacher, they'll be like, 召し上が
うん。
りました. And then if you don't say 召し上がりました and you just go 召し上がった, then suddenly you're now you're being rude. But it doesn't, to me, I find that hilarious because this teacher isn't even in the
うん。
conversation.
ああね。う
You know
ん。
what I'm
うん。
saying?
うん。うん。ここに、なんだ、会話の中にいないのに、その人のことを話すだけでも、なんか敬語使うとかね。ってことでしょ。う
Well,
ん。
yeah, and then there are multiple levels within. Like I said, you can go. If you're talking to somebody who you're friends with, then the baseline might already be like
う
tamego.
ん。
So it might be like
うん。
taberu,
うん。
nomu,
うん。
hashiru. And then like one level up from that a keigo you could use is like
うん。
desmasuke. So like you
あ、
could
そう
go
ね。そうそう。レベルがあ
like
る
when
か
you're
らね。そうそう
referring to,
そう。
but then a level above that would be like I said the full
うん。
meshiagaru and stuff like that. And then a level above that would be like the full
うん。
conjugated
う
meshiagarimashita
ん。
or
うん。
whatever.
うん。
And so there's like a weird thing where you and the person you're talking to casually both have to decide, I guess, how much keigo you want to use referring to somebody that's above both of you. And I just find that whole interaction
そ
annoying.
れね。そうそうそうなんだよ。あとさ、なんだろう。なんて言うんだろう。話してる相手とさ、より親密っていうかなんていうの近くに感じたいときってさ、ちょっと敬語だとやっぱり、ちょっと距離感じるんだよね。で、
Yeah. I definitely
そう
agree.
そう。でもさ、あんまりさ、ちょっとタメ語すぎるとさ、ちょっと失礼だしさ、そこの頃合いよね。うん、どれぐらい、なんていうの、カジュアルに言っていいのかっていうのもね、なんか試行錯誤しながらやっていかないとって感じよね。あと、あとね、今なんて言おうとしたんだっけあ、そうだ。大学に行ってるとさ、年上の人がさ、下の学年にいる場合があるんだよ。例えば、私
Yeah.
21歳ですと。で、1個下の学年に22歳の人がいると。まあ22とか23とか。
Oh, I see what
そ
you're
うそう
saying.
そ
Yeah. When this what's it called? They're older than you, but they're a lower
う。
grade.
そう。なんか、年齢は上だけど、学年が下っていう場合ね。そういう時って、私が先輩になるらしいよ。学年が上だから。
You could just go. You could go both. You could go kosen or you could go senhai.
そうね。そうそうそう。 だから、それもちょっとなんか日本の変な風習よね。ねえ、だってアメリカだと、
We can make...
ごめん。アメリカだとだって年齢じゃない？学年じゃないでしょ？
Not really. I mean, maybe my experience... In America, there's so many different experiences, it's hard to say what normal is, but generally speaking, I actually think it has to do with your position, not your age. So I think the reverse. But generally speaking, I think it's even more so than that. If you're not in a strictly like even within a high, like for example, my academic setting that I was in, my rule is pretty simple. If I didn't respect the person, I didn't speak to them using Kegel. But even if I did, like to me, that doesn't really indicate whether I respect somebody or not. My like other actions and how I interact with them and more nuanced, the ways I decide to approach it, all convey my respect towards a person. But I hate having to use forced language to refer to somebody. Like when no hate towards doctors, but I find it extremely annoying when doctors act like, did you not refer to me my doctor? I worked for 12 years. I made my own decision to work X amount of time, to work this amount of time, like, and then to have people call me doctor, whatever. And I'm like, I don't remember signing that agreement. Because did I have to sign an agreement to call you doctor? Oh, I didn't have to do that. It was your decision to become a doctor. Nobody's obligated to call you a doctor, even if you are. There's so many that you know what, I respect Japanese for that a lot, because there's so many professions that take an insane amount of skill, but you don't get a cool title. Like you don't get official doctor. Like being like Oda, what's his name? Eiichiro Oda, is that his name? The writer of One Piece, for example. In Japanese, you get the sensei. You always get the sensei. They put some respect on that name. But in English, he doesn't get the sensei. He deserves a doctor as far as I'm concerned, because doctor doesn't actually mean like doctor of sciences. It's doctor of philosophy. I think it's doctor of philosophy. That's what it means when people say like Dr. Blank. So it doesn't have to do anything with the medical field. And like it takes just as much, like the amount of work that people like him put in is insane. So like I find it annoying that some jobs get like this title of a doctor and people get super entitled, and she's like, oh, you need to call me this because I went to med school, where there are plenty of people who are grinding and doing their own, like, you know what I'm saying?
でもさ、あれじゃない？
putting their own
学
work
校の
in.
先生もなんとか先生って言わない？佐藤先生、なんとか先生。
No, that's what I think is great for the Japanese. I'm saying in English we don't have that.
じゃあ、Ms. なんとか
In
とか
English,
言うの
like
か。
Hayao Miyazaki is just a director. You know what I'm saying? But as far as I'm concerned, he should be just in the same level as doctor. He deserves his title.
ああね。漫画、まあ例えば漫画家でもさ、めちゃめちゃ、なんていうの、すごい成功してる人は多分人からなんとか先生って言われてんじゃない？
No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, exactly. That's my point. I mean, not just mangaka, but like seiyuu or voice actors, and normal act. Like everybody who does good good work gets respect, and I like that a lot. I will say that I'll go backwards and say that part of Keigo I like. Everybody gets respect where it's due. Whereas in the U.S., it's like only certain positions established through a institution that I like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't sign any contract to call anybody doctor.
はい。だから、病院の医者を呼ぶときに、ドクターって言う必要もないとね。確かに。
Yeah, you have to say like, doctor.
呼び捨てでもいいしね。別にリスペクトしてなかったら。
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
素晴らしいラウンドだ。
That bell means we've reached the end of today's episode. Thanks for joining us in another lazy conversation towards fluency. If you have any language-related questions and or are just looking for general advice, send an email to lazyfluency@gmail.com and we might respond in the next episode. Also, make sure to check out our podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more. We'd appreciate the support. This has been Joey.
And Ayami.
Signing off.
じゃあねー。 バイバイ。
Bye bye.
バイバイバイ。